at round 4 I'm talking.
I would say typically I guess about the IHI
Where you can fit
Get
all
all
about
to the
what
right.
matters
funny done
You're Dundee today.
What's it found?
to
Hi,
the individuals and their
I like
families.
the inclusiveness of it. Or inclusivity, is that the
That
word?
was Jason.
Well, I
No,
think
it's
it's
about
nice.
talking about what matters to healthcare
And
professionals.
I think Alan's just
They,
done
they can apply comments.
My name is Mustafia. I'm actually with
Oh, good. I can't see all the names because they're overlapping.
Just exploring the place. Looks nice.
You ready to rock and roll?
I think so.
Great.
I'd rather do them at 8 o'clock at night for future reference. It's just a personal thing, nothing to do with the content.
From your sofa. That will come in time. Give it another year and a half and we'll suddenly
Okay.
go, why are we spending our lives rushing around in traffic and having a miserable time?
Okay, folks, welcome everyone. So we should all be standing in a circle. You may not be able to see, there's a lot of us here today. I'm David Lomas, by the way. I'm one of the Pentacle tutors, and I'm just going to welcome everyone and say a couple of words before I hand over to the real people that you come here to see and to chat to today. Now I know we've probably got a mix of people who are new to Cube and people who practically live on Cube. So I'm going to start from scratch just so that everybody's kind of got the same basic understanding of what we're here. And when you would start a normal conference like this, you would probably stand up in front of everyone and say, can everyone hear me at the back? And of course, this is a silly question because only the people who hear actually respond. But on Cube, we should do the same thing. We should check. Now, of course, nodding your head on Cube when you're wearing a headset probably just means your headset falls off. So we have to find a slightly different way of doing it. And as with everything else, we start to use our fingers instead of our feet, instead of our heads. And so if you can hear me, I'd just like you to nod your head by pressing the Y key, Y for yes. And hopefully you'll see, as people do that, you'll see everyone around the room doing. And of course, if you can't hear me, you can press the N key for no. And then I know that you can in fact press N for no. Okay, so that's good. We can all hear each other now. We thought it might be useful to try and just explain why we're all here. Why are we all standing around wearing brightly coloured suits in a big circle here? And you know, why have we built Cube, in fact? And I was trying to think about how to explain this. Now, there are two really excellent videos that explain all of this, and you'll have a chance to look at them later on. One of them is about 18 minutes long, and it's the TED Talk that Eddie Obeng did on smart failure, explains all about what's happening in the world and why we need a new way of working. That one's really great if you like listening to people, because it's Eddie talking very, very fast. There is another video which is slightly shorter, and there's no talking at all, but there is lots of reading. So if you prefer reading, I suggest you watch the World After Midnight video, but even that one's about 8 or 9 minutes long, and I have about 2 minutes to do the same thing. I was thinking, how on earth can I do this? Well, I'm going to ask you another yes-no question now. Get your fingers ready on the Y and the N keys. Does everybody remember when music used to come on a big black shiny disc? Who remembers that? Yep, okay, lots of nods. Okay, so I mean, back in the early days, this was the only way that you could buy music, and everybody kind of understood it. And then one day in the early 80s, this new thing came along, this new thing called a CD, and it was the future. It was the future of music, and everybody got very excited and thought, well, we've got to be, you know, modern and with it. So everybody went out and bought CDs as gifts for people, and they gave them for birthdays and Christmases. And there was one day we realised in the early 80s that there were more copies of Dire Straits' album Brothers in Arms on CD than there were CD players in the UK. Very curious situation. So I had this vision of all these people suddenly getting this new CD out, unwrapping it, and then trying to put it on their record player and trying to figure out where to put the needle, and it was very confusing. But eventually we kind of got past that, and we realised we need a CD player. So this was a change. Oh no, the fire alarm.
Oh
It's
my
all
God.
right, it's just a test. Okay. Just like in real life, we test the
Woke
fire
everyone
alarm
up.
for you as well. Excellent. So this was a big change in music, but it wasn't really a different. It was still, you know, you still got your music on a disc. It was just slightly smaller and silver, and you still needed a big box to play it on. It's just that the thing went inside instead of on top with a needle. You didn't really need a new way of thinking about music, a new operating system for music. It was just a change in the size of the technology. Fast forward to today though, and it's a very different scenario. My wife came to me the other day and she said, my phone has stopped working, I can't get my emails. And it says all my data is gone, my bandwidth is all used up. And I said, well, you've probably been downloading loads of things. And she said, no, I haven't been downloading anything. And when I looked, she'd been out running and she'd been listening to her music. And of course, her music doesn't really exist anymore. It's on the internet. So she'd been streaming all this music while she was out running, not realizing. And she'd used up all her bandwidth and now her phone doesn't work and she can't get to her emails. In order to understand music today, you need a completely different operating model. You need a different software in your head. You need a different operating system. Because the music is different. The music doesn't really exist. It's out there on the internet somewhere. It's not the same as the difference between vinyl and CD. And this is what we've noticed happening in the world. The pace of change is getting faster. The way to run an organization is changing. The things that you used to do that gave you success don't seem to work anymore. You need a new operating system. And that is why we built Cube. Cube is effectively a new operating system. It's not really software, although there's software in it. It's about enabling people to come together, to learn something, to find a different way of thinking, to collaborate with each other, to share what works, to learn fast, to go faster, no matter where you are in the world. For big, global, complex organizations who are distributed, it's a new operating system for success. And that's the kind of essence of why we created Cube. Now, of course, with any new thing, there's a little bit of a learning curve. You have to get used to it. And so, especially for people who haven't been on Cube very often, or if you have been on for a while, I wanted to give you a very quick overview of what this thing is that you're looking at before we get started. I'm going to zap everybody across the room. Now, in the real world, this would be the equivalent of me grabbing hold of everybody's shoulder and pushing you to the other side of the room. A little bit rude. So apologies in advance, but I'm going to zip us all over to here. Fabulous. And I'm going to ask everyone to click on this yellow triangle up here. I'm going to step forward onto the stage here, and then you might start to get a little bit quiet. But the tutors will help everybody step forward, so you're looking full screen at this picture. Obviously, the main part of Cube is this big 3D space. This is the cubicle that we're meeting in, and everybody can move around in. That looks the same for pretty much everybody. Okay, but there are a few bits around the edge that aren't part of this kind of shared world that we're living in, and I just wanted to highlight a couple of them. One of them is down at the bottom left-hand corner, down in the bottom left-hand corner here. There's a whole bunch of icons, 2 rows of icons down here. The bottom row is really important. This is where all the sound stuff is. So hopefully everybody's found the microphone icon. If you have trouble with your sound, that's where you go. And the row above, these are kind of the usual working icons that you might find in any other kind of application you use to do work. There's things like save and cut and paste and all the usual stuff. We probably won't need too many of those today. When we get onto running real projects, that's where we focus our attention. Down in the bottom right-hand corner, again, there are a few different icons. If you ever get stuck and you're not sure where you are, click the home icon, the one that looks like a little house down here. And that'll take you back to this view, and then you've got a view of the whole room, and you'll be able to find your way from there. And obviously sticky notes just on the bottom row there, they're quite important. Last 2 bits before I hand over. This list of people, okay, these are all the people who it won't look like this list, but all the people who are in the session with us today are here. And so you can often tell who's talking by looking for the little speaker icon next to their name. If they've got a red cross, like a lot of people have at the moment, it means their microphone's turned off, so they may not be able to answer you. And you might need to just help them find the microphone icon. If you want to connect with people and you're not sure where they are, these 5 icons here are really helpful. Probably the most useful one for today would be the speech bubble there, the little green speech bubble. If you want to send a private message to someone and get some help from either me or Josh or Toby, if you need some help with something, click that button, find our name in the list, and you send us a message, and we'll respond as quick as we can. And then zooming around, this is quite a big space. Okay, you can get very tired if you have to walk. I know somebody stole my picture. Never mind. Underneath there on the right-hand side, you can probably see on your screen now a list of places, and you'll see we've got a whole bunch of places such as first aid. If you need some help with Cube, if you're getting stuck, we might ask you to go to a first aid spot. There's a spot for our partners, so all the different exhibitions that are available today under our partners, and view presentation. When we go to the big screen to listen to the main speakers, view presentation is where we'll go. So those are shortcuts, and it saves you walking all the way. It'll just zip you straight across there. I'm going to stop at that point, and I think I'm going to ask, is it Simon, are you going to lead us on to the next section?
Yeah, Dave, thank you very much. I'm going to bring up
Simon.
another slide. Hopefully it's come up. Right. Can everyone see hopes and fears in front of them? So if you, what wants to do today is capture what your greatest hopes for from today's activity, and also what your fears are. So my fear on the right is that that everyone can read my writing. So what you do is grab a post-it note, either by clicking on the board with your right click, or from the little yellow icon in the bottom right. And
if you want to get closer, click on the yellow triangle above it, and then you'll be able to hear clearly. Yeah.
I'll have it.
Right. Well, there's lots of similarity coming up on the screen there. Lots of good comments.
Helping Simon to read to summarize quickly.
Okay.
Let me just quickly run through the fears, because there's a few things here that I think people are a little bit worried about, and it might be useful just to make sure we deal with those so that people can relax and just enjoy the rest of the session. I've tried to organise them a little bit here, but actually there's a lot of similarity. There's a lot of stuff to do with getting lost, not finding your way on Cube. Everyone can remembering how to use Cube, and some stuff about things like connections and bandwidth. So obviously we've got a big group here, we've got a mixed group. You know, we will have connection problems. It's just like a mobile phone. If you get disconnected, you just reconnect and we'll get you joined in again. If you do get lost, remember, send a private message to anyone in the people list who has Pentacle at the end of their name. They're a Pentacle tutor and they'll be able to help you out. So send a private message to one of us and we'll get you reconnected and get you joined in. Loads of time explaining the basics. Well, this is pretty much all we're going to do. The rest of the day is the rest of the session is all about the content. So hopefully we'll be able to deal with anyone who is getting stuck and not distract everyone else. So I think most of those are kind of just worrying about the basics on Cube. Everybody's in, hopefully everyone can hear. You'll notice most people have got their microphones turned off. When we're doing the big group sessions, we'll probably ask people just to maybe keep their microphones off, especially if you've got some background noise. It makes it a lot easier for everyone else to hear. And I'm really pleased that somebody's got no fears and is ready to jump in. So Simon, why don't you take us through what we're going to do today based on the hopes?
Well, I was going to say, I think the interesting one is people have picked up about this is a new way of working and learning about a new tool, which hopefully you will do. And you learn by using Cube. That's how I learned it, and I think most people do. So, and you're talking about meeting people. So down here, people talk about meeting new people, and that's one of the fantastic things. The people on Cube, I've never met Tammy, but I feel I know her very well because we keep meeting on Cube. We know how to work together. There's also, I think, a little bit about understanding how it works. And again, I think some people put on the fear side. I think you'll grasp how it works very soon. And then you'll find, like a mobile phone, it does far more than allow you to talk to each other. It allows you to actually communicate and work together. And this is the first time I've ever been to a meeting where I can read all the post-it notes. So I think that's enough from me. And we'll move on to Tammy, I think, now.